So here we are. Hey, Ezra.
Take number 17, Joel.
17.
And we've gotten about 5 seconds worth of video so far. So
recorded about 30 minutes worth of video, but we've got 5 usable seconds.
You know what's embarrassing? We have a brand new guest here, and so far we are total amateurs, Joel.
I know. And I didn't even put these back on, so you're probably getting all kinds of feedback. Man.
That's great. You know, it's a good thing we don't do this for a living, Joel.
Woo. Joe Rogan, look out.
On a broadcasting network, huh?
Right.
Man, well, I'm excited about our coreCAST today.
I'm very excited.
Joel, you know, we have such an auspicious guest with us. Before we introduce him, I really expected you to, I don't know, trim up a little, you know, and I don't know if you've heard, there's a brand new company out there that's getting into the shaving market, and Jeremy's Razors.
Yeah, but I want my beard to look like Jeremy, if you'll notice in this clip right here.
Do you remember when there were 2 genders and only 1.5 of them had to shave their mustaches? Oh, hi. I'm Jeremy Boring, CEO and God King of the Daily Wire. Harry's Razors used to advertise on our shows. They're a great product, and we were happy to do it. That's before some peon who works for me went and said that boys are boys and girls are girls, and that was just too much for Harry's. They condemned our views held by millions of Americans and virtually every human who's walked the planet until about 15 minutes ago, as inexcusable. And they dropped their ads from our network because of what they called values misalignment. You're damn right our values are misaligned. And it's not just Harry's either. Gillette razors used to be the best a man could get. Then they decided that men are too toxic. Unless you're the kind of man who teaches his daughter to shave her beard. If that makes sense to you, keep buying Gillette. But if you've had enough of the woke bullshit...
That is an awesome, awesome video, by the way. So just a little promotion for them from our friends over at... Who's behind them?
The Daily Wire?
The Daily Wire.
Is it the Daily Wire or the Daily Caller? It's the Daily something.
It's the Daily Wire. And,
awesome.
I'm truly excited. But seriously, go watch the video. It's one of the most amusing... Literally, we can learn some marketing lessons from there. So definitely visit their website. Link is right below. And enjoy.
Yeah.
I already ordered my kit, so I'm excited.
Awesome.
For those of us that do shave, Joel.
I'm like Jeremy. I want to be like Jeremy. I have to. Here we go. We're already starting to make adjustments here. I got to move my camera, so I'm sorry if you get motion sick. All right, here we go. Now we're ready.
There you go.
Now we're ready. So this is literally our first real podcast, if you think about it, Ezra, because we actually have a guest, which is this is no small thing to have this guy here. And I am so excited to have him. Do you want to introduce him, Ezra?
No, I mean, let me just introduce the general topic of this cast. And for a change, I'm not going to be talking a whole lot. I know nobody believes that because I always say that I'm going to be really short and won't be speaking much. But Joel, you know that one of the things that I'm so proud of Coreware is the fact that we hire veterans. And Joel, I know I've told everyone, all 2 viewers of our cast, that you served our country, and you're a Marine, and we've got a couple of other employees that were Marines and Army and
Air Force.
And we're really passionate about our veterans. And I actually would like you to introduce George, because I think you'll do a much better job. But Joel, I can't thank you enough for your service. And I'm so excited to have George here. But absolutely, as our Marine, I would love for you to introduce George to everyone.
Okay. And as you can see, George and Ezra pulled out all my memorabilia to kind of add to the setting here, and I was looking at some of the stuff, and it really was bringing back memories. It's been a while, but man, some of the places and things that we did in the name of our country, it's mind-boggling. It's just man, I wouldn't change anything for anything. So we've got with us George Lutz, who is the founder and CEO, and he's actually, if you're military, he's Honor and Remember Actual. So you guys in the military would know what that means. So Honor and Remember is a great organization that Coreware has completely gotten behind. They basically, and George, I'm going to hand this off to you, but I want to explain it in the everyman's way of exactly what your mission is, and then we can go from there, and you can kind of correct me or fix whatever it is that I broke. But my understanding is right now there's no national symbol of remembrance for those who have died while in service. So George's mission is to make sure that we provide a flag to every member that has died under, the national symbol of our nation, which is the American flag, So in his flag, he's going to explain everything that the flag means, the different colors, the symbolism of the flag, if you will. But do I have that right, George, in explaining it as far as, every man is concerned?
Yes and no, Joel.
Okay.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here, honestly, and to be associated with Coreware. And, we could talk about that partnership later on, but it's been a long-standing partnership for over a decade that many people may not know. But really, the main mission of the entire organization is to establish a symbol so that every man and woman in America has a way to appreciate the freedoms that they are given because of those that sacrifice their lives. And it's very much as simple as that. It's the establishment of a national symbol. And the way we got there, really is kind of my own journey, which, began with the loss of my son. My son Tony was killed in Fallujah, Iraq in 2005. That's going to be 17 years, this year ago that he lost his life by a sniper. And as a dad, when I got that knock on the door and I heard those 5, very simple words, "We regret to inform you," it kind of put me into a tailspin. I didn't know what I was going to do, how to react. It's not something a parent can prepare for. So really, what do you do with that information? You just fall apart, basically. And so what happens is you look around for any kind of healing salve that you can rub on and embrace, because you want to be able to not feel the enormity and intensity of pain that you're feeling at that moment, right? So what you do is you look for ways that will comfort you. And one of those ways was to find out, does anybody really care, that he gave his life? And if they do care, how do I know that they care? And how do they show that they care? Because I don't know everybody. And so I know that the general public around me, my direct family, my friends, they get it. But I don't know about my neighbors. I don't know about, the people I see in the grocery store. You begin to wonder whether or not, because he gave his life for his country, whether or not the country understands and appreciates that. So that kind of became my mission, as a personal journey, I should say, to figure out how America cares. And I can go into, really a long explanation of that, but I won't. I'll bring it, down to a, more succinct point. So after doing a lot of research and just kind of organically searching, right, as a dad, looking for healing balm, I realized that in America, we did not have a way to appreciate the sacrifice of these men and women. There was no kind of global, public, unified effort that we had to be appreciative. And it really seems kind of silly that we wouldn't. But
it's actually surprising to me, George, that, it's nothing until I met you. It's not something that I even ever thought of. But after all the wars we've gone through, it's incredible to me that, that nothing existed. And I actually was curious about that. Does any other country, to your knowledge, have anything, that had anything in place when you were searching? I mean, obviously in the U.S. there was nothing, but no other country either.
No, the U.S. is the most patriotic, if you will, and the most concerned, because of the veteran population and what.
So I'm with you on that point. I grew up in Israel. And talk about patriotism. You're growing up knowing that you're going to serve. Yeah. And when I've been thinking about it, and again, we left when I was 14, so I don't remember. And I couldn't think of anything even in Israel. There's places that memorialize soldiers, but there was not to my knowledge, any national symbol. But talk about a patriotic country. That's one thing that I think the U.S. and Israel share, and it's surprising that really no one has come up with this concept. And at the time when you started looking into it, I guess there literally was nothing there.
Right. And one of the things that you come across when you think about our fallen military is you think about monuments and those kinds of things that are in Washington, but one of the things that I realized in the research that I've done is that the most visited memorial in Washington, D.C. is only visited by about 4 million people a year. And so if you think about who's visiting those memorials, and this isn't just like single people, this is, visitations, over the course of a year. It could be the same people coming back. I mean, it's just, so if you think of how many people visit or even get to Washington, it's a very, very small percentage of the population, right? So who's going to memorials? Mostly the veteran community, I would say, more than the general population. Those that served in that era, those that had family that served in that era, those friends that they maybe lost in that era. So there's a whole mass population that's missing in terms of understanding that sacrifice, comes at a price. And so basically it came down to, we should have something by which we can unify and send a collective message, not just in remembrance of those that died, because they're gone. I don't think that that's really that important. I mean, I don't say that irreverently, but they're gone. But what I realized as a grieving dad and meeting now thousands of families, literally thousands of families who are still here, who have given their loved ones, they're the ones that need to be reminded that we haven't forgotten. And so how do you send that message when there's no message to send? There's no way to deliver that message, right? Because you may think, well, we have Memorial Day, because that would be typically what everybody would come up with, right? Well, we remember our loved one, those men and women on Memorial Day. Well, there's different surveys on this, but between 50 and 80% of Americans don't know why Memorial Day exists. So most of the country has no clue. So if you take Memorial Day out of the equation and you take the monuments that nobody's visiting out of the equation, what are we really doing as Americans to remember? Nothing. I mean, this is me just being blatant, right? So I thought that needs to be fixed, because really the only population that's remembering on those days is the veteran population, right? The families and the veterans. And a cluster of patriotic Americans, but mostly people are just going about their business. So when I realized that what the delivery system should be would be a flag, right? Something that if you put it on a pole, I mean, we go by poles and we might look up and see a bunch of flags. And how often do we say, I've never seen that one before. What is that? Is that the state flag of Alaska? I mean, we don't really
True.
know, most of us, oh, could be the Army flag or the Marine flag, but we all don't know those flags. So I figured that if a flag was the delivery system of that message and we could get it on flagpoles, then people would start asking the question, what is that?
What is that?
What does it stand for? And, what does it have any meaning? And so that became the driving force of my mission. So to answer your question, Joel, in a nutshell, our goal is to put the Honor and Remember flag on every flagpole in America so that there is a collective message sent to those who gave their loved ones that we haven't forgotten their sacrifice. That's really the primary goal. Giving the flag to the families is a benevolent gift, but we don't need to do that. The primary mission is the general awareness of the population. Giving them a gift does not ease their pain, but letting America send them a message of remembrance brings much more healing than having a gift in your closet. So,
Right. And I'll tell you maybe a secondary benefit of your mission succeeding, which may be a primary benefit for the entire planet, is the fact that when you put these things in front of people and you make them look, here's what everything cost. Here's
right.
what happens if we're flippant about foreign policy or our American ego or whatever you want to say. Here's the cost. Here's the blood that we're going to have to pay. And me personally, I would love for everybody just to have pause, especially with everything you see going on, around the world. A lot of people are, itching to go over there. And I'm like, man, you must not have paid anything over the past couple of decades, because there's a lot of people that have paid the ultimate sacrifice, like you're saying, the families that are left alone. They're not in a hurry to do that again. So
right.
if we could just kind of slow down and realize, hey, man, what we have here in this country it's an anomaly, and that anomaly is paid for in the blood of actual people, that laid their lives down, whether it was, active duty training, whatever it was, they signed their name, to that blank check, and they paid that ultimate price. So I'm all for it, George. I want this to succeed. I want people to slow down. I want people to know what the price of freedom really is.
And appreciate it.
And appreciate it, absolutely.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Right.
So one of the ways maybe that this would come across to your listeners, your viewers, is that when my son came to me and said, "Dad, I joined the Army," he was a man already married, had a child, he had his family.
Wow. Right?
So he came and said, "Dad, I joined the Army. I'm leaving for boot camp on Saturday." I mean, I had no clue, but ahead of time. I knew he was talking about the service and investigating branches of service, but I had no idea what, step he was on. And when he said that to me, the first thing I said to him was, "Are you crazy? You could get hurt. There's a war going on." I mean, those are the words out of my mouth. And when he said to me, "Dad, I believe in my job description, where I'm going to be, what I'm going to be a part of, I can make a difference. And so what can you do as a dad? You want to be proud of your kids. You give them a hug and you say, keep your head down, right? But I will tell you, I wasn't willing to give him up. I wasn't willing to give his life for this country. And before he died, I didn't give any thought to anybody else who gave their life for this country. I think I was just a typical American. But, every parent in America would rather somebody else's kid died for their freedom than their own loved one, right? That's just a natural feeling. Every parent in America, every spouse in America would rather somebody else die for their country besides their own. And I say somebody else is dying for this country so that your loved one doesn't have to. So what is the very least that you can do? The very, very least that you can do? Be thankful. So then I say, how are you thankful? How do you don't even know who gave their loved ones? How do you send a message? How can you articulate being appreciative? And I will tell you as adamantly as I can, it is every American citizen's responsibility and obligation to be thankful for the sacrifice that was given for their freedom. Every one of them, their responsibility and their obligation. And I think that this flag and the creation of this flag and driving the awareness of this flag is going to touch the lives of tens of thousands of families who don't know that anybody cares, except for a few within their own sphere of influence. This gives America a unified opportunity to accept that obligation and responsibility, right? Because otherwise, what do you have is apathy. You can't be appreciative when you're apathetic. You can't say, well, I don't care, somebody else is giving their life. No, you do care. I think everybody inherently cares. They do. If I were to sit in front of somebody and tell them that, they would be moved, right? And I say, well, here's a way for you, for all of those who are watching, for all of your clients and customers, a way to send a message through their whatever, through their websites, through their retail stores, through their brick and mortars, to say, I'm a part of that population that appreciates. And I'm in this I want to be a part of this unified effort. I mean, this is the importance to me of what I believe is an obligation.
I agree with you totally. So, George, once you realized and I guess the light bulb went off and you came up, with the concept, I mean, and I know pieces of the story that you've told me, but I think everyone it's just fascinating to me how you went about this because, you're basically just a dad with no connections, with the ultimate sacrifice, giving up your son to our country. How did you go about even figuring out, okay, what are the next steps? And, how did you get to where we are now?
Sure. Well, once I determined that it was going to be a flag, I'll skip the steps before that. Again, I didn't want to be the one doing it. I didn't feel like I had the talent or expertise. What I thought was, I'm just going to give this idea to somebody like Congress, and they'll just do it, because I didn't feel like I had any talent to do anything like this. So I wrote a letter to my congressman and said, hey, I think we need to have a flag of remembrance, and it would really, mean a lot and this and that. And so what do you think? Can you guys make it happen kind of thing? And, 3 months later, after I hounded them to get back to me, basically they said, well, we talked about it with some of our veterans organizations up here, and we believe that the American flag is enough and we don't need any other flags, And so I went, oh man, I go, well, obviously they don't get it, because they don't understand that it has nothing to do with the American flag, right?
Sure.
It has to do with remembering and recognizing as a public the sacrifice. So I kind of got discouraged, and I kind of was put back on my heels, and I said, man, I guess this isn't going to happen, because I don't know where else to go, right? I don't know what else to do. And right. I don't want to get too super spiritual about it, but I kind of got this inkling from God, this kind of impression that spoke to me and said, well, if you think it's important, then you have to do it. And so that became kind of my, a sticking point in my brain, that if I thought it was important, I had to do it. Well, I really thought it was important, and so I went, okay, then I'm going to start trying to figure it out. Well, I have kind of like a producing background and product development. It's been, in my job description. for years. So I kind of know how to put something together. Like if I'm going to build a video tape, a training tape, or I'm going to publish a book or something, I mean, I know steps. And I thought, well, how can it be any different? I know I'm going to have to put steps together, right? If I'm going to come up with a flag, then it has to have a name. And if I'm going to come up, it has to have a visual. What would that visual look like? So I started gathering together all the elements that I could think of that had to do with remembering or military or any kind of iconic symbols that would have meaning to, in a certain way. So folded flag, right? Everybody understands a folded flag. Eternal flames. People kind of get what eternal flames are. Colors, red, white, and blue. Obviously, that's patriotic. I realized that I was in the Gold Star community. So the Gold Star came about from the Blue Star. So all of these elements I pulled together and thought, well, somehow these are going to be the iconic, configuration that would create a flag. And then I knew that I had to have a website, because how else am I going to get the word out? And then I started to create a petition, because I thought, well, maybe if I create something that would get some buzz and people would go to, and I could get some support. So I created a petition. I needed to put a board together because I wanted to form a nonprofit. I mean, this is in the weeds, but all of these things had to come together because I didn't want to appear to be a grieving father who didn't know what he was doing, that was throwing something together that maybe looked like it could be nationally recognized, if you understand. So
absolutely,
all of this groundwork had to be done at the beginning to when I knew I was going to eventually launch the flag and unveil it publicly. It was ready to go, and I had all my ducks in a row, and it looked polished. And really, honestly, the way I started it was to become as transparent as possible, because I knew that if I was going to go down a road, I had no precedent, Ezra. There wasn't anything that I could go by that would give me any kind of a roadmap. And so I wanted to be able to know that down the road, when all the questions came up, whatever they may be, I don't like the color, I don't like the design, I don't like this, I don't like you, all of those things, I knew that I would be able to answer those questions in the shining light. There wasn't anything I couldn't answer. And so all of that had to be done up front, even finding that there's a story in every piece, even finding the name, honor, and remember. But the flag and what it became, once I pulled the elements together, I have a son who's a graphic artist in California, and he worked for a high-end graphics.
I didn't even know that, George. See, yeah. I learn something new every time I talk to you. I may need to poach him.
Yeah, you might.
Make a note of that, Joel.
Got it.
He's amazing. He's amazing.
That's awesome.
So he worked for a high-end company that did logos and stuff for branding, network branding and stuff. So I gave him all the elements with an idea of what I wanted, and because of the meaning. And I said, here, guys, polish this up and make it look like it could be a national symbol, when we're done. So they came back with some ideas, and, I narrowed it down to what I wanted, and that's another long story. But all of those things had to come in place. It wasn't just kind of like, oh, I'm just going to throw this against the wall and see what sticks. It had to be formulated very succinctly and very thoughtfully so that I could come up with something that nobody would look at it and go, who came up with that? That really looks crappy.
Yeah.
And so that really is what brought us to Memorial Day of 2008, 15 years ago. 14 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. Where we unveiled the Honor and Remember flag publicly, at a ceremony, with a congressman at a war memorial in downtown Norfolk, Virginia, which was very significant. Does that help answer that?
Yeah, absolutely. So at that point, you've got everything established. You've got the flag and the beginning of your organization, and now I'm sure you're scratching at this point of time. You're scratching your head, figuring out, okay, what's the next step? And I think I know the story of what the next steps were, because I think it involved a lot of doors and a lot of walking, right?
Right. Right. Well, when you think of the mission being establishing, right, what does that look like? How are you establishing? Well, the only model I had was the POWMIA flag that was adopted in Washington, D.C. in 1989. So that was really the only thing that I had to go by. And so my thought was, well, I need to get it established in Washington. I need to have a bill in Congress. And so that became my mindset of establishing. And of course, that journey has changed over the years. But there was a congresswoman who was at that memorial unveiling, in 2008, and she put in the first bill in Congress in 2008. And so that, to me, I was all excited about it, not knowing how Congress operates, of course, and thinking, oh, this is easy. We're going to have this thing done lickety-split, right?
But this is why the expression it's like an act of Congress, right, is what you learned. Trying to get something done, I sometimes refer to that, not really knowing that that's true, but, there is that expression. It takes an act of Congress. So I guess that's what you discovered the hard way.
And I'm now on my fifth bill in Congress, all right? Five bills. And every bill is 2 years, right? In a session. So you can see what the length of time has been in going nowhere. I currently have a bill in Congress which is going nowhere. And so that's why really after that first year of realizing, well, Congress just does and moves at whatever speed they want to move, and they take up whatever topics they want to take up. I mean, they're not always the right ones at the right time. That I decided that after my state of Virginia became the first state, actually, I think my city became the first city to adopt the flag. And then a couple of other local cities adopted the flag. And then my state ended up adopting the flag. Amazing. And I thought, wow, maybe what I need to do is do this on a state level instead of a federal level. And if I could get enough states on board, maybe the federal government would come on later. And so now we have 26 official state adoptions. So 26 adoptions, that's, over half the country. And,
that's amazing.
And, it's been a 14-year journey to get here, and still with not an easy road.
That's incredible. And Joel, let's make sure we know the number correctly, because I think we've quoted it as 28 before.
Yeah, in my head it was 27.
There you go. So now we have 26.
Yes,
26, which is incredible. And George, I remember one of the first times that I met you. You literally were telling me that. I mean, you went around knocking on doors in Washington, right, to get that process going.
That was, believe it or not, Ezra, that was 11 years ago.
Wow.
That I knocked on Congress doors. The first thing I did, though, was I got in a vehicle and I drove to all 50 states.
Oh, my gosh.
For 6 months, I visited every state capital. I had one-on-one meetings with 23 governors. And,
wow.
And I left this message of remembrance in 2010 in every state of our union, even went to Alaska and Hawaii. So I was in all 50 states over 6 months. When I got back from that journey, right, which I took by myself, I decided I was going to go to Congress because I had a book of signatures from politicians from all 50 states. So I thought, well, I'm going to go to Congress now, and I'm going to show them my book, and I'm going to get these guys on board. This was in 2011, right? And so I, through my team, we set up meetings in all 541 offices in the Senate and the House. I knocked on every door over 2 months. About every 15 minutes, every day for 10 hours. I was having meetings, sharing the story. And at the end of 2 months, and that was our third bill in Congress, by the way, that I was promoting. By the end of those 2 months, I had 156 co-sponsors on the bill for that year, for that session.
Wow.
And still the bill went nowhere.
That's crazy.
Oh.
So, yeah, I've pounded the shoe leather. But in 11 years now, there's been probably a whole complete changeover, from back then. But I kind of got discouraged from all of that, and the process that it took and the energy that it took, emotional and physical. Imagine me having to tell my story, dozens and dozens of times a day, every day for 2 months. I can't
even imagine. What's interesting is, I'm not very involved with the nonprofit world, but to me, there's such a parallel with the business world, and we have a lot of our viewers are business owners, and we've all had struggles, including here at Coreware, where you have to just keep going. I think I just learned this in the last time we spoke, that you're writing a book, and to me, I don't know what your book's about. I know it's about your story, but to me, it's a business lesson, right? You've got to be tenacious. You've got to keep going, whatever your mission is, right? Whether it's a nonprofit mission or even your business mission. There's such a lesson to learn from this story, George, and that's why it fascinates me, and why you fascinate me so much is because, there's so many people out there that, should admire, your tenacity, your stubbornness, your just commitment to this cause. And it's incredible to me, truly incredible.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. But, I do believe that you're not working if you're doing something that you really love and passionate about. And I will tell you that I firmly believe that everything I've done in my life up to and including my son dying put me on a path of that I've never felt before, and a vision and a passion that I've never experienced before. But it electrifies me, and it invigorates me, and it makes me, not want to give up. There's days in all of us where we go, this just isn't worth it. How can I just do this one more time? You can imagine that, having lost my son and now having spoken to so many who have lost sons and daughters and spouses, and knowing how they feel, and then having somebody resist the idea of a public, message of appreciation that doesn't exist, that they never had before, but yet still resist that, is really such a slap in the face you can't imagine. It's just debilitating.
So I'm just curious, because to me, I feel like I have one of my good attributes is I feel like I have good common sense, right? And the problem is a lot of times something seems such common sense to me. I struggle with understanding why someone doesn't feel something's not common sense. So this is to me the ultimate lack of common sense. What would be a typical argument that you would hear against it? I'm just curious, like what would someone, when you were, going through and knocking on doors and hearing someone basically challenge you or resist it, was there any valid reasons? I'm just confused. Who would put up a fight on this? It doesn't cost. It doesn't. It's not like you're asking $1.5 trillion, right?
Right.
So I get that bills are hard to pass, and but I'm curious, what was some of the resistance that you faced?
Well, just subjective things like color or, design, maybe. I don't know. I heard from the Department of Heraldry that this was one of the best flag designs that they've ever seen, because it was so symmetrically and powerfully, projected, but the biggest objection, which is of no sense, and I mentioned it earlier, is just the American flag. we have the American flag. But what people don't understand, and even when I explain it to them, I don't know, maybe it's like politics, right? You've got a line, and I'm not saying I'm on either side or the other of this line, but you have a line, and people are on the left of the line and they're on the right of the line. And it doesn't matter how much common sense the issue is, the people on one side are just not ever going to accept it. So I could hear the American flag line and go, well, this has nothing to do with the American flag. No. Next, what else is on your mind? But and then I would explain and explain and explain. And at the end, they'd go, well, we still think the American flag, we just want to hold on to the American flag. And I just go, where were you when I was talking? And that's the mindset, is that when somebody makes up their mind. Now, Ezra, when you get somebody who makes up their mind and they're in a position of being a gatekeeper, right? Or the head of a committee or the head of an organization, then you're not going to get anywhere. You're just not going to get anywhere, because they're not going to be in favor of it and they're not going to share it. But there's not one objection that I have ever heard. And when I set the organization up, remember I said I wanted to make sure everything was in motion. Here's another objection, is that the flag is trademarked. Okay, I get that objection.
Really?
And then I go, well, that's interesting, because all of the flags that the government puts out, all the branch of service flags, they're all trademarked flags. Any flag anybody creates, the state flags are trademarked. The college, any other flag, the organizational flags, the VFW, the American Legion, their flags are all trademarked. I mean, it only makes sense to protect something, right? The problem was that when the POW-MIA flag came out, they forgot to trademark it. So when it got out into the general public, it was a free-for-all. Everybody could make it. They could change the design, the colors. They could make it overseas. There wasn't any restrictive.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key, right? There was opportunity for, unfortunately, what's very common in this country is to an over sense of greed, right? So that's what you do have to protect.
So I saw a letter that was written to one of the flag manufacturers who were making money off the POW flag, from the POW organization, that said, would you mind donating to us, because you're making money off our flag? Would you mind sending us a donation? And so I thought to myself, I'm not going to let that happen.
No.
I'm going to make sure that we protect this and we do it right. So, but what I did was I made sure that everyone who had any hand in the design of this flag would sign their rights away to any to holding any obligation to the organization, not to any one person. So the organization holds the trademark rights through our attorneys, and not anybody who had anything to do with it. So nobody profits.
Yep.
The organization, is the governing body. There's a small royalty that they get, not as much as the people that make it get. But there's small royalty they get, which helps us to operate in some small way. But all of that had to be thought about, in terms of that. But that's just another objection. But I had all of that taken care of before I even started, But
Smart.
So there really is there's no common sense reason why this shouldn't be on every flagpole and be embraced by every organization, in America, except maybe Pride. It wasn't their idea, whatever that may be. But if I can get it out there in enough places and as often as I can, and show that there is a public embracing, like through NASCAR, through Coreware, through Spartan Nash, some of our partners, and the more they see it here and there, then people will start going, oh, I want that. I didn't know about that. I want to be a part of that. And that becomes part of education.
Yeah, so this, I think, leads into maybe you telling us, so you went through, you established the organization, you established the flag, you went around, knocked on doors, started getting some traction there. Maybe there's a good time to let us know what has Honor and Remember done for the families? Because I think that's what it all boils down to, right? Is what that next step of realizing, okay, I'm getting that taken care of, but now how do I reach out to these families? And again, I think it's just fascinating what you've done and what you're doing.
So the whole idea behind the Honor Remember flag was to give a gift. And that gift wasn't necessarily a personal gift, but a global gift, okay? So as I was starting to move towards the unveiling, one of the things that my wife Patricia said to me was, if you can figure out a way to make this personal, then you are going to be able to touch many more hearts, and more people will be embracing of what this, truly means. Let it speak to the people who you are giving this gift to, not as a physical gift. And so the interesting thing was the design of the Honor Remember flag lent itself to have something underneath of it. It was designed in a way that there was space, below the words Honor and Remember. And I thought about what she had said, for quite a while. And then it hit me that what we could do was personalize these flags, and personalize them in a very unique way by putting the names of their heroes on there, maybe the date that they died and the theater or where they were when they died, so that we could make a permanent and specific symbol of remembrance for a family. And so that became kind of the idea of a benevolent arm to our general gift to America, right? This gift that would enable everybody to send a message now as an organization, because they were our family and my family. I mean, these families, I knew exactly what they were going through. I wanted to let them know that we had not individually and personally forgotten their loved one, not just from a global generic flag. And so we started hand making these flags, heirloom quality, hand sewn flags that we were going to give to each family who had lost a loved one. And my goal was to give one to every family who had ever lost a loved one. So it didn't.
In any war, in any, I think that's a really important point. Any generation, any era, any descendant, And so that way, because unlike other organizations, the Honor Remember flag was created to recognize every fallen service member in the history of our country, right, and their families that they represent, right. So that's a very global and broad umbrella stroke, and it was all those who died while serving or as a result of serving. So if you were to have lost your life from serving in Vietnam from a long battle with Agent Orange, you would qualify because this was as a result of serving. Post-traumatic stress, suicides, as a result of serving. All of these men and women would be recognized. And so we began to find families and personalize these flags and present them. And we began to ask for requests. Like, we didn't just send them out. We wanted to make sure that families asked for them, so we knew that we were not making these very expensive flags, just on a whim, but they were going to families that really wanted them. And so we started giving them, making them and giving them away. I met with manufacturers who could make them. We don't make them, and with a certain design. And so now, over the course of the year, at one time, we had over 1,200, maybe 1,400 requests that we couldn't get to in our pipeline. Wow. We had that many. And you can imagine you can't make one of these flags overnight. And in the last several years now, remember we've been doing this for 14 years. In the last several years, we have been giving
a flag on the average of one every single day. So
Wow.
over 400 flags a year have been given to families. We have now given over 4,300 plus flags over the last 15 years. And we have got our waiting list, although we still have a waiting list. We have gotten our waiting list to under 400, but we still get new requests every single day.
And George, I'm assuming you don't mind sharing because, you know, it's surprising you look at a flag and at least me, I don't necessarily think a flag costs a whole lot, right, when I first look at a flag. But do you mind sharing the cost of each one of these flags?
Well, the flag all in, by the time we sew it and do whatever it has to be done to verify the names and all that, costs about $500 a flag. And,
wow.
And believe me, we can't find people even at that price, you know, because it's a very skilled. Sewers in the United States are becoming scarce, and so we've got 3 or 4 manufacturers that we parcel these out to make sure the specs are correct. But right now we're at about a 3-month waiting list because of all the flags we have waiting, you know, in the process of being made. Plus, we haven't got to the 400 that are on the waiting list. So it's an expensive process, but it's also, a hands-on, physical process that, you know, also needs attention to detail.
That's incredible. And really, you know, I wanted to bring up, you know, the cost because, again, I think most people wouldn't even think of, if I don't think about it, I assume other people wouldn't really think much. Well, you know, why, you know, what's really involved in this cost? We could just get it manufactured in China and, you know,
right.
But it's
that's why it's expected.
Yeah.
But just to add, before you ask me again, the flag behind you is just a screen printed flag that anybody, you know, can fly on their own flagpole, and that size at a 3x5 is only $50. So you can
that's awesome.
You can buy and put on a flag, you know, from any manufacturer. If you go out and search the Honor Remember flag, you can go out and buy it from anywhere. Of course, if you get it from honorandremember.org, you know, it helps us more directly. But it's very inexpensive. Just fly the flag. But the hand-sewn flags are the ones that are very, very
you give to the families, but you want to make them special. I mean, that's part of the thank you for the absolute ultimate sacrifice that any family can make. I mean, it's unimaginable to me as a father what you went through and what so many families, you know, have gone through, and I just can't even imagine. And I can't thank you enough for your sacrifice, George. But again, we'll be flashing up the website. You know, our biggest goal here is to raise awareness. And if you buy a flag like the one behind me for $50, you know, if you're a business owner, you can put it in your store. You know, obviously, I think everyone by now knows Coreware is hyper-focused on some specific industries, one of them being the shooting industry, which has so many veterans. You know, that's part of the reason why we love the industry. And, you know, all of our customers have retail stores. So even if it's just to raise awareness, and the key, what I love about Honor and Remember, you know, I'm always hesitant to give money to an organization, right? Because I want to know where is that money going to. I want to know that it's truly going to the cause that, you know, they're advertising, right? Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, nonprofit is big business, right? At the end of the day, we all know nonprofit organizations are big business sometimes. But, you know, George, share with us where, you know, when I spend $50 on that flag, where's that money going?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Well, what we're doing is a lot of things that continue to bring honor, you know, to these families. Obviously, most of that, I mean, I think I had mentioned to you offline that our percentage of admin is like at 11%. And so we spend very little money on the admin, but yet that's an important piece because we have to be transparent, right, and accountable.
100%.
So we've got to have that admin. But behind that, we're always doing things for families besides the flags. Yes, it goes towards the flags, but we've got a state chapter structure that is out there finding families, that is out there doing banquets for families. We do Run for the Fallens.
I definitely want to talk about that. To me, that's, another fascinating, and I'd love, by the way, we don't have a time limit here, right? We've already established that in every coreCAST. So
yeah, well, we can make 2 parts.
I was going to say we can make part 1 and part 2. So,
right.
But I think the Run for the Fallen is again something really fascinating that our viewers will be very interested to hear about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can talk about that. So basically, just to finish answering your question, to be able to have the funds to do some of the traveling that we need to do to make presentations to flags for families, and sometimes we get a number of requests. We have the flags made. We may have 5 or 6 flags in one state. So we'll go and we'll put an event together so those families can all come together and meet each other and get presented their flags. And so, the funds are just churned and churned within the organization to keep honoring, these families and letting them know that we care. Plus, we give flags, to if businesses don't want to buy one, we'll give them one. It's silly. But, sometimes it's like, oh, yeah, I'll fly it. Well, if you give me one. And it's like, really, you can't spend $50 and honor our fallen. Okay, fine. If I give it to you, will you put it up? So we run into that, as well, because visibility, is very important to us. So
absolutely.
All of those things.
It's all about awareness, right? I mean, that's the key that it's with anything. I mean, look at what we do at Coreware. A lot of people don't know who Coreware is. It's all about awareness, and how do you figure out how to make people recognize you when you don't have millions of dollars to spend on, commercials and advertising and, all of that marketing spend. And I know you, a corporate marketing world, it gets expensive.
I can give you an example. One of our ambassadors was at this rally. I mean, he just heard about this patriotic rally, and he thought, well, I'm going to go down there and just see if I can get a few minutes, to talk to the group. And they let him on stage, and he talked about the flag, for really 5 minutes. Gave the organizer a flag, and you can't imagine how many people called us and ordered flags who said, I never heard about this. This is amazing. I want one of these flags. And you see, this is what I think is kind of the appetite of America. If they just knew, then there would be an interest, because it's an important thing to know, right? So from that perspective, but
absolutely. So, George, you mentioned state chapters. I was just curious. How many states have honor and remember chapters?
So one of the right now we have 12 chapters, and we could use more chapters. There's one chapter in 12 states, so we've got 38 more states to go. But the idea at the beginning, again, as I was setting everything up, was to realize that I couldn't do this all by myself, that I had to have other people who were out there, also duplicating what the mission was and in their individual state. And so over the years, one state at a time, somebody would find out and realize that this was important and take on that mission, the same mission of establishing the flag in their state, getting its state adopted, educating people, presenting flags to families, taking families to events and things like that. All of those things that I can't do myself in every part of the country, but other states can pick up on and do. So with 12 state chapters, it's a volunteer network, they're duplicating the efforts and meeting the needs of the families in their states. And through their efforts, a lot of those flags get presented. I don't present all those flags. I present a lot of them, but many of those state chapters are presenting flags. So
That's awesome. So, yeah, I want to hear about the runs, and I really want to hear about NASCAR and how that started. So,
okay, guys, hang on. We need to kind of stop here because we're at an hour right now, and I want everyone to be able to kind of eat this stuff in, manageable bites. So in the next episode of coreCAST, we're going to talk to George about honor and remember, obviously, and Run for the Fallen, which is a great. It's something that I've wanted to do, George. Just to be honest with you, I'll see those things where it's like, hey, fill in a time or whatever, and I always want to, but I've never done it yet. But I'm gonna eventually. And we're gonna talk about how does an organization, such as yours, how do you partner with an organization like NASCAR? Because that's kind of a big deal as well. So I'm really excited to hear that, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next episode. So go click on it right now. Bye for now. Thank you so much for watching.